Hello, and welcome to On My Shelf. Today, I have a humorous middle grade about surviving middle school with an obvious medical issue. Wink by Rob Harrell is a story about Ross Malloy. He just wants to be a regular seventh grader, but he gets diagnosed with a rare eye cancer in middle school. It's the most awkward time to have something go wrong. I say this lightly because the book was a humorous yet serious look at a kid suffering through cancer in middle school. Rob Harrell is also the author of the Life of Zarf series and the Bat Pig series. Both of these are illustrated series, and he illustrates his own books. I really loved Wink, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this was a really serious topic, eye cancer in seventh grade, but the humor made it much easier to read about. He was just a regular kid most days. He just happened to have eye cancer. I loved that the illness was not the most important thing about him, and there were lots of awkward situations that just made you laugh. And this made it really relatable, and I think relatable to a lot of the middle school readers. Secondly, I felt like it was perfectly middle schooled. The situations that he encountered were so middle school. Harrell wrote the book from his own experience, and that showed. We all have horrible middle school stories that we remember that, looking back, are probably pretty humorous. The kids reading the book are in those years, so they can read about these experiences and think, this is really funny happening to somebody else. It's helpful for them to see that other people experience it. They feel seen, and they also feel like they're not alone in their embarrassment. The third reason I really loved this book was the family dynamics. Ross's mother had died of cancer, but he had a great dad and stepmom. I love seeing these kinds of family relationships in literature instead of the whole evil stepmother trope or evil stepparent. There were moments of such love and adoration between his stepmom and himself and his dad and himself that I found the words on the page getting a little bit blurry. From a craft perspective, I enjoyed many things about Wink. One of the biggest things were the illustrations that were peppered throughout. Harrell illustrates his illustrated series, and in Wink, he had a page with a comic every now and then. It was actually a Bat Pig comic, which he's actually released as an illustrated series now, which is just funny. There were also some random humorous illustrations that give weight to something that Ross was thinking. And I felt like that was a really good touch because cancer is a hard thing to deal with, but he would get his frustration out in illustrations that were humorous to himself and to other people. It also broke up the text and provided a little bit of levity. And the comics allowed Ross to work through his feelings about the eye cancer and the threat of death. I also really enjoyed the depth of emotion that Harrell put in his book. The book is so funny, but it's also very serious. In between the times when Ross is lamenting about goop running out of his eye and crusting over on his cheek, he also has moments where he really thinks about the fact that he could die. It felt very realistic to the way a middle schooler would experience something like that. The most important thing in a school day is no one looking at him with the goop running from his eye. But the most important thing at home is the threat of mortality. So it was heavy and light, and the depth of emotion was just superb. Harrell also has a thin line between good and evil. This was one of the things I really loved about this book. There's a bully, but he doesn't stay a bully. I hate when characters are all good or all bad because that's not any of us. We all have a little bit of good and a little bit of bad in us. And I loved that Ross and the bully found a common interest and that they became friends in the end. It reminds me to make sure that the villains in my stories are always richly developed instead of one-dimensional, even if they never redeem themselves. So here's what we can take away from Wink as readers and as writers. Number one, when approaching illness or something that makes a character quote-unquote different, don't make it the thing. That goes for neurodiverse characters, characters struggling with medical issues, or ones who are just going through difficult life things. It's not the only thing about them. It's just one of the things. They're also a whole person experiencing awkward situations and trying to get through humorous circumstances. Number two, humor and emotion. I feel like this is becoming a refrain of mine. But humor is so much more effective when it's hitched to emotion. There are moments in the book when you'd be laughing one second and then you'd have a lump in your throat the next. And those are the moments that readers remember. It makes me want to look at more opportunities in my own manuscripts to do the same. And number 3 is listen to kids. Harrell's story was so on point for what boys experience in middle school. It reminded me to listen to my own kids. I have 2 in middle school right now, and I'll have 3 next year. What kinds of plot points can I glean from them? Just don't tell them I'm listening, because they'll be mortified. And that's it for today's On My Shelf. If you're interested in hearing an author's perspective on books, TV shows, and movies, be sure to subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching.